It's time now for another edition of the Sharps Report here with bettingpros.com. My name is Matt Perrault. You guys probably know me from the Daily Juice podcast, and we are psyched to be joined this week on the Sharps Report. We love talking to guys who are in the industry or in the media, making plays, making bets, and putting their plays out there for you guys to read. He is Raheem Palmer from the Action Network joining us here on the Sharps Report. What's up, man? How are you? Good to have you.
I'm good, man. Life is good. I just came back from Vegas. Me and Matt, we met last week. I signed up for the Circa contest. I signed up for the Super contest. I'm excited. I covered the Pacquiao fight. NFL starts next week, and it's going down.
Is this your first time in the Circa, or have you been in it before?
I've been in the Super contest in 2019. I never did the Circa contest. I was in the Super contest in 2019. It was 3,300 entries. I finished 241st, 1 point out of the money. It's my fault because I kept taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that was the year when Jameis Winston decided to throw 30 interceptions. One interception could have changed, got me in the men cash or whatever. So.
I mean, I'll get you even one better. So in the reboot last year, we finished 1 point out, and the Steelers game that got moved from Tuesday to Wednesday, we kept with it. And it won.
Oh, wow.
It won. But if we hadn't decided to keep with that, if that game gets played on Tuesday and the Steelers win and cover, I'm in the money for the reboot contest. Instead, we lose and are 1 point out of the reboot cashing. So I feel your pain.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I feel your pain.
This year we're going to cash, though. I'm confident.
I hope so. It's super fun. I tell everybody that if you haven't ever done it before, it's such a great way of being a part of it. And sure, you got to put the money up front, so it's $1,000, so it's not cheap to do. But it's so fun and so entertaining, and what a great way to spend 20 weeks or whatever watching football, 18 weeks watching football, and you're making your picks and plays anyway, but you're also worth the stagnant lines. Do you use the Super Contest to help you out at all, or the Circa Contest lines when it comes to what you do on Sunday? Do you pay attention to the line that's stagnant and then the movement that happens later in the week?
I actually don't. I mean, I think, the lines come out, so they come out like Wednesday. So I think, these days the NFL market is so sharp. You want to be able to knock out those opening numbers. I mean, you got guys like Warren Sharp, they're moving on Monday. A $500 bet will move the market on a Monday, Tuesday morning. And, by the time the Circa lines and Super Contest lines come out, sometimes it's frustrating because you can't get the best of the number that you want. Like the lines are already sharpened up by the time the Circuit contest comes out.
True. Very, very true. All right, let's talk about your background a little bit. How long you been doing gambling content? How long you been betting on games? I know you got a very interesting backstory that we talked about when we were together, at the Cosmo, but what is your background? How did you get here?
Okay, for me, I was a DJ. I was in the music industry. I worked at Rock Nation. My whole life was music. At some point, Delaware Park opened, and they had the parlay betting. It was like the first in the country. You had to bet 3 games on NFL games. And, a lot of us, we did the parlay hustle. And it's so funny you mentioned the Circa contest and the Super contest. You have the stale lines. Delaware Park has stale lines because they locked on Wednesday. So by the time we get down there on Sunday, you could pick, how many games that you wanted. And then, just fill out all the tickets with all the stale lines. And a lot of sharp groups down there. Captain Jack Andrews, you might see him on Twitter. He's one of the prominent gamblers. He used to be down there. Sheep, I don't know if you guys know Sheep. Sheep used to fix those NBA games. His whole crew was down there. Him, Philly Godfather, Tiger. I mean, it was a whole crew of just doing the parlay hustle. So I was doing that. But, at some point you realize parlays they're really hard to hit, even if you got stale numbers. So I got my local bookies. I think around 2013. I don't know if you remember this game, but Aaron Rodgers, it was week 17. They playing the Bears.
Okay.
I think it was 2013. They're laying 3.5. And the Packers, I ended up taking the Packers laying at 3.5. The Packers are down 2. So they're going to kick a field goal. Aaron Rodgers throws the bomb to James Jones. They cover.
Right.
I had $4,000 on that game.
Dang.
And it's like, I mean, that was a lot of money to me at the time. It was the biggest bet. And I'm like, you know what? I'm doing this wrong. I laid 3.5 with a road favorite. And I'm like, I'm a total square. So then that's when I got into sports modeling and everything like that. You know, I continued in the music industry. I continued DJing. But at some point, I was just like, I'm not really feeling this anymore.
Yeah.
So I left Rock Nation. I started betting full time. I hit a big bet on the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors were down 0-2 against the Milwaukee Bucks. I took them to win the series at plus 660. I took them game 3. I came back. I took them plus 460 to win the series. I took them game 4. I came back, took them 220 to win the series. Came back, took them money line, plus 300, plus 8 to win the series. They won 4 games straight. That was like my big hit to get me a decent bankroll. Then I took them to the finals. I rolled through there. Then the pandemic happened. I'm like, yo, what am I going to do with my life? The opportunity, somebody said they were looking for writers at the Action Network. I've been writing like Facebook blogs. I'd never written before.
Yeah.
And I sent them all the stuff that I was doing. I sent them with me moving lines. Like I moved a couple NFL lines down Delaware. I sent them my model and they was like, yeah, come on board. I was a freelance writer for about a month. And I told him, like, y'all don't even have to pay me. And a month into it, Chad's like, you know what? I'm gonna give you a contract. He gives me a 3-month contract. 1 month into the contract, he's like, you know, I'm hiring you full time.
Very cool.
So that's my story.
That's very cool. Ted Millman from the Action Network is a smart man to grab a hold of you. You mentioned you were doing Facebook posts. So like my brothers are big into Reddit, and I'm just not in. I'm 44 years old, so I'm kind of too old to really get into that. But did you garner a following? Like they send me guys who they trail all the time on Reddit who just put their plays up on Reddit, and that's kind of their platform for their distribution for whatever they're doing with picks and plays. Did you find people like searching you out on Facebook trying to read your plays?
Nah, you know what's so crazy? I was just doing a status update. So like I'll give you an example. I created a model to predict MVP back in like 2017.
Okay.
And I'm still angry about this because I had Harden the year Russell Westbrook won MVP.
Right.
He won it because he had the triple double. But I had Harden 20-1 to win MVP. And at the All-Star break, Harden was a 2-1 favorite. So I built the model, to predict MVP based on that. So I would post that on Facebook, or like I posted the time, like I was DJing this party, hosted by the Denver Nuggets. I got drunk with the Denver Nuggets. And then I went home and bet everything I had on the Sixers. So I would like post like little shit like that.
That's awesome. Insider knowledge, right? You saw what they were doing. Like, oh, these guys aren't going to be able to do anything tomorrow. That's really funny. How is there any correlation to your DJing and what you did DJing that's helped you when it comes to sports betting? Any similarities?
I think for me, the only real correlation is that it's not stable.
Yeah.
And that's the only real correlation for me. Is just like, you just never know. Like, I mean, sometimes I would be DJing 4 or 5 nights a week. Sometimes I wouldn't be DJing anything. So I had to get used to the ebbs and flows of everything like that. And I still struggle with it. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
No, it's not easy. I mean, sports betting in general it's the roller coaster ride, and the ups and the downs of it. You are betting, you're trying to predict what a human being's going to do. And it's not easy to do, to predict it consistently, to say what someone's going to do. And everything should be lined up perfectly. And then the putt lips out, the shot hits off the crossbar, whatever it might be, and then you're done. So it's just, you never know how things are going to go. In terms of the way you prepare, you do a lot of modeling. Do you still do modeling today?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think that's the model is, there's some handicappers who just only use the model. That's not me. The model is just a baseline for me. So it's like when those opening lines come out, I look at my model and say, how does this differ? And then I also try to look at the limitations of my model. Why does my model think this? Why does it think that? But then I also handicap the games. When it comes to NFL, the first thing I handicap is the offensive defensive line. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because the game is won in the trenches. And then obviously you want to look at the quarterback. You want to look at who's the corner, like who's the secondary, who they're playing against. Can this team run the ball? What are they trying to do? And
I think you buried the lead though. Okay. Because where does your math background come from?
I went to University of Pennsylvania, Wharton School of Business. I actually have a marketing degree. Actually, it's so funny because my mom was a math teacher.
Because you say I'm a DJ, and it's like, well, you are a DJ, yes, but you leave out the part where you went to one of the most prestigious math schools in the country. Like, you didn't just like wake up and be like, I'm going to build a model. Like, you obviously have a very good grasp of numbers.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think the thing is when when I was in school, I was such a creative person, and I'm taking these classes, and I'm like, man, why am I here? But then, once I got into this, and I'm like, oh shoot, I could use all this to help me make money. So once I wanted to make a model, it was just, oh shoot, just go back to Stat 101, Stat 102, and just speak to some of the professors, and then get some advice here and there. And I graduated in 2008. I didn't start using my modeling skills until like 2013, 2014. So.
But it's kind of like having a gun in your drawer. Like, you could pull it out when you needed it. Like, you had that available to you when you needed to go to it. You were able to pull out that tool and be able to go and use it. Because I mean, that I think is such an interesting thing from what your background is, that you weren't using your math. You were doing something creative. You wanted to go out and pursue that, but then you were able to realize, wait, I like betting on sports, and oh wait. Math, the amount of math I use today, if you had told me, like, I'm a radio guy, I started in radio, I never thought we really would be heavily involved in math and I don't do models, but the amount of just straight up looking at numbers and probabilities and value and the things that I look at, I never thought I'd use this. Like, I never thought I'd be doing math, but now we're so into math that. Would you recommend that to a kid who's listening to this right now, that if they wanted to think about sports betting, that math is a good way to go?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you got to know, like, even in the NFL, you got to know what that key number is worth. You got to know. I mean, you have people blindly buying hooks and buying onto the three, buying off to the three. You need to know what that's worth, because every single cent adds up.
And that, I think, is one of the more difficult lessons to learn, right? What side to be on, and sometimes you could be on the right side and still lose. But the value, you were on the right side. You had the right angle, the right value. You played the bet right, and everything is lined up perfectly, and you still lose.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's the toughest thing, and you have to, like, and what did they say in Trainer Day? It's like, you got to control your smiles and cries. That's what you got to know. Like, in this industry, you got to control it, because you can have one bad beat and it can set you off. And believe me, I've done it. I've gone broke before, and I don't want anybody to experience that.
Well, you go on tilt, right? And you just start. I tell people, look, I get paid to bet. Like, it's my job to bet every day. You don't have to. Get up, walk away, get away from it, go on vacation, shut the phone off, delete the app, whatever you got to do to get away from it for a couple of days before you come back with a fresh set of eyes to see something, because you can get going on that spiral. And then you're just getting beat on, you're chasing, you're making bad plays, you're not thinking correctly. And it happens to all of us. I mean, we all go through that. No matter how good you are at this thing, you're going to have a moment where you're like, uh-oh, this sucks.
Billy Walters is the greatest sports bettor of all time. He's gone broke 15 times.
Unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
And so it's just like, that tells you, how tough this thing is.
And to have the mental fortitude to keep on coming back, right? I mean, to keep firing, and like that line of like shooters shoot. But you have to be, if you go 0-8, you go 0-30, whatever it might be, like, you got to keep on firing and believing that your system's going to work, because it's worked before. And even when things aren't working right now, it doesn't mean it won't turn for you. And that, for me, betting every day, that's probably been the biggest lesson that I've learned, that like, I don't get nearly as upset as if I lose 8 bets in a row. Okay.
Yeah.
Just keep on going. I know it's going to turn. I've been here before, and then I'll turn right around and I'll go on a 10-0 run, and okay, we're all back. And people who are following you, and I'm sure you get this at Action all the time when you're posting your picks and plays, when they decide to jump in, their opinion of you really gets dictated. And you're like, look, I'm a long haul here. This is not a one day, one play type of thing. If you just, hey, I followed Raheem for his NBA pick and I lost. He's bad. But I hit the previous 8. Like, what are you talking about? Like that. Yeah. You just chose to play the one that I happened to lose, and it's not really fair. That's what bothers me about the industry when it comes to posting picks. Have you experienced anything that's kind of annoying when you're putting picks up?
I mean, I had 1 or 2 guys for the most part, but I just, I had such a crazy run in the NBA last year. I mean, I went 4.5 months without losing week.
Wow.
I literally was like, I could not, until the NBA finals, from March until the NBA finals, I couldn't lose. And all some of the craziest upsets. Denver Nuggets versus the Portland Trail Blazers, game 6, they're catching 5. The whole public's on the Blazers. I got the Nuggets outright. The Clippers versus the Jazz right after Kawhi Leonard gets hurt. I have them game 5 and 6. They're down 20 points, 30 points in the second quarter. Clippers come back and win. Like, that's how hot I was running. So it's just like I've actually got messages from people saying, "Hey, you kept me off the street."
Whoa, wow!
Like, I had people, Venmoing me saying, "Hey, here's some money." Yeah, like tipping me just because I had ran so hot. But I mean, like, before that, I got a couple of negative messages, but I'm kind of one of those, like, I'm one of those spiritual guys to where it's just like, let's keep it all positive, and I try to always be positive and keep it cool with everybody. So I feel like I attract the energy that I give out to the world. What
were you on the Bucks in the NBA Finals? I can't remember.
No, I was not. I was on. What happened was I was on the Suns for Game 4, and like, it's catastrophic loss for me. I'm not even gonna lie to you, catastrophic loss. But after that, I was like, yo, the Bucks are gonna win the series. Because when they came back from that game, I was just like, you know what, the Bucks then found something, and I knew they had it locked.
Where was the picture of you courtside? Which game was that?
That was Game 7 in the Nets series. So I took the Nets in Game 5. The public was all over. I think the public was all over
Milwaukee.
The Bucks in Game 5. Yeah, the Bucks in Game 5. But I took the Nets. The Nets were at home. It was no Hart, no Kyrie. I just felt like Kevin Durant was going to have a big game. He did. Then I came back and took the Bucks for the series, down 3-2. And then I went to Game 7 and put money on the Bucks to win Game 7. I was sitting right behind Travis Scott, the rapper, and Emmanuel Sanders was right in front of me too.
Did they know you had bet the game?
I kept telling everybody, I was like, I got $12,000 on the Bucks to win this game, and I got another 10 on them to win the series. So I'm the only person in the building rooting for the Bucks. Everybody, and it's not like the thing about the Nets, like Brooklyn. There's no real Nets fans. They're all like bandwagon fans. So nobody wants to beat me up. It's not like Philadelphia. I went to Game 7 in Philadelphia the next day against the Hawks. I took the Hawks second half. I ain't tell nobody.
Real quiet on that. Well, speaking of the Sixers, as we tape this here on a Tuesday afternoon, there could be news that comes out by the time this drops. But Ben Simmons has told the Sixers he's done with them. What's the Philadelphia reaction to Ben Simmons hearing that? Is he dead to the city now?
I mean, he was dead to the city before. Like, I mean, one of my friends, he actually went viral. He called him like a crumb bum. He was like, yo, get the F out of my city, you crumb bum. And, it went viral so much that he started selling T-shirts with Ben's face that says crumb bum.
Wow.
So it's like, I mean, like, I literally sat outside of the arena and it was like people were mad, people were crying. It was bad. So he can't come back to the city.
If the team forces him, because supposedly the team only wants one player in return, and it looks like Portland's not going to go ahead and give them the one player, and Dame is going to stick in Portland. What happens? Does he call their bluff and not show up for training camp?
I think you got to. I mean, I don't see him calling the bluff. Honestly, today's NBA, I just don't see it. Honestly, I'm holding on to him.
Yeah.
If I'm Daryl, it's like you killed this leverage. I mean, you killed your leverage by saying, hey, you don't want him. You were supposed to stand with him and then try to find, a way to trade him during the regular season. You can't just say, hey, yeah, we want to get rid of him. And it's like we have no leverage at this point.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to watch and see what happens, because I think if he wound up going to Golden State, I'd be really interested to see what the Warriors, what they would look like with him, and having him be that type of rebounder, big guard, kind of offset Steph, and get Klay Thompson back with that. And
they'd be scary.
Ooh, they'd be fun. They'd be a fun team if Golden State were able to land him. Hell, even if my Celtics were to be able to get a hold of him, I think could be interesting. I mean, Simmons, you just don't need him to do. You need him to play a very specific role. If you need him to shoot, you're done. You need him to score, you're in trouble. But rebound and pass?
They had a 15-game stretch in 2018 when MB got injured toward the end of the season. And it was Ben Simmons and 4 shooters. And they won all 15 straight games into the playoffs. Yep. And I feel like we're being cheated out of seeing the best of Ben Simmons because he's not in a system like Giannis. Like, Giannis has 4 shooters around him at the same time. That's what I want to see from Ben.
It's a great point, and that's when with Golden State, that's what you have. I mean, the greatest shooter maybe all time. So you'd have that, and then Clay, and then you'd have just a ton of weapons around him. It's unfortunate that it's gotten to this point, but I mean, Philadelphia is obviously going to ride with Embiid, and rightfully so, and now build around him and kind of figure out what to do. You're not going to get value back for Simmons. I think we kind of already all know that right now. But all right, so let's talk value here for a couple seconds, and I'm curious about how you see a couple things in the futures market. So at the time of taping now, Mac Jones has been named the starting quarterback for the Patriots. The offensive rookie of the year odds on Mac Jones went from 10-1 to 5-1 now, down because of this. I don't think there's much value. People are saying, and there were a lot of money that drove this down, people betting on Mac Jones. But as a Patriot guy, I don't think Mac Jones is going to win the offensive rookie of the year. But how do you handle markets like that? That, do you go away from steam? Do you follow steam? How do you handle it when the market's moving that quickly?
I'm not really a big fan of you chasing steam on future markets, just because I feel like a lot of times you're getting the worst of it. Like, honestly, I mean, like when it comes to this one, I think Zach Wilson's by far the better quarterback. And I think the Jets are going to have a decent offense.
You're the second person to tell me this today. I disagree with this wholeheartedly. I want to hear your I got into a fight on my radio show about this. Now I want to hear from you. Why are the Jets going to be good this year?
I'm not saying they're going to be good. I'm saying the offense is going to be good.
Why? Because Corey Davis is there?
I mean, not just because of Corey Davis. I just think, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Jamison Crowder, they got the receivers. They got, Keenan Cole. Like, they got guys to throw the ball to. And I just think when you get rid of Adam Gase, that's a big part of your problem.
So this is the exact same thing that was said to me on a radio show, that Adam Gase going away is a huge step up. Okay, maybe. All right. It's still an unproven situation. Zach Wilson is small. Okay. He is a small dude. And so can he take the NFL hits? I don't know yet. And then the offensive line, I know they've invested in the offensive line, but do you like the offensive line for the Jets? And then who's the running back? Who are they? They don't have a running game in New York.
We're not talking about the Giants offensive line. We're not talking about Cincinnati's offensive line.
True.
Like
Bakari, they've got guys that have invested offensive line in first round picks, and I get that, but they're somewhat unproven. I understand that Wilson could put up some big numbers because they're going to be trailing in a lot of games. So his numbers could jump. Same thing with Trevor Lawrence. That's why I think there's more value in Lawrence and Wilson from a rookie of the year perspective than Mac Jones, because Mac Jones may have the better record than those three teams, but he's going to hand the ball off more than half the time. Like, he's just not going to be expected to go and throw 40 touchdowns and be Tom Brady. So
I'm gonna give you a pick. I'm gonna give you a pick here. And it's unfortunate because it's already moved, but we took some over 43 in the Jets-Panthers game week 1. I
like that play. That's a low total. It's 43. Wow, that's a low total.
We took that about a week ago. I actually gave it to I told him because I actually bet the Jets first half against the Packers in the last preseason, the previous preseason game they played. When I was signing up for the Super Contest, I gave it to Maddie.
The two touchdown performance by Wilson, right?
Yeah. That's a good over. 44.5. I mean, unfortunately, 44 is a key number, so you're kind of getting the worst of it. But I still think it goes over there. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I could see it because Joe Brady with Sam Darnold, that Darnold wants to go out against his former team and put numbers up. Brady wants to prove that it was Bridgewater's fault last year, not his. Yeah. So you've got that storyline, and then you've got Wilson. I guess my only question would be is how much does that defense for the Jets take a step forward with the new head coach and Saleh being a defensive guy? So that's kind of the only thing I would think of, that maybe the Panthers don't score, but you've got Run CMC coming back. So that should be big. And McCaffrey should be the all-everything back now that he was, as long as he stays healthy. And last year he had 3 injuries. So, but I like that 44. I'm comfortable at 44.5 even. It's a key number, but I'm okay with it even going over on that. I think you're going to see quite a bit of points. I don't like either defense, to be quite honest. I don't like the Jets defense.
Yeah, I don't like either as well.
Yeah,
but so that's a pick that we hit that about a week ago. There's another group on it. So I think another group hit it like yesterday or so. I was a little mad because I didn't get more on it.
Oh, I like that. So in terms of how you're approaching week 1, what do you use? Obviously, I know you're using models and whatnot, but how aggressive are you in week 1 in the NFL without really knowing what these teams are going to look like?
I think the first couple of weeks of the NFL season, that's the time to be aggressive. And it's counterintuitive because
no, it's the same thing with preseason. It's the same thing. I tell people that you're betting preseason. Yes, if you do research and do your homework, the lines are the softest they're going to be all year.
Yeah.
It's the one time I went back over the last 3 years and I've been super profitable all 3 Septembers in college and pro football. And then October, November comes around and it's like I'm back to being 50%. But I'm way more profitable in September and I build the bankroll up and everyone thinks you're a genius because the lines aren't that sharp and you can take advantage. So I'm with you.
That's exactly what it is. And it's like that for almost every major sport. Like you have people who play baseball who say, I'm not betting in August. I'm not betting in September. Yeah. And it's like same thing for the NBA. So in the NFL, you got you got to come out firing. Like you got to come out guns blazing first couple of weeks. I think the first 4 weeks. And then that's when it gets tough after that.
Yeah. And then everything, because the books know they're going to get their money back too. So that's why the books are comfortable. Like, okay, yeah, we'll have a couple of, so weeks. And, I think most bookmakers I've talked to that if they go 2-2 in the 4 weeks in September, they're totally fine with that. And then come October, they know that they're going to be rolling. And then come November and December, when they've got really their algorithms firing, and the public keeps on just assuming different things are going to happen. Like it always has happened. Like, wait, it happened in September. Why won't it happen in November? And they get destroyed. And the books do very, very well. And that's why the casinos are the size that they are here in Vegas because of those November streaks that they go into. Are you at all in the props market? Do you like betting props?
I'm not really big into props. I think it's something I want to get into. Obviously, the markets are a lot smaller, but it's just never something I've really got into. My colleague Brandon Anderson, that's all he does.
Yeah, it's almost like I feel like you have to be one or the other. I feel that like I know people who do a lot of baseball props and they bet like strikeout props, or they bet home run props, or they bet they bet total bases. But like that's all they do. Like they don't bet sides and they don't bet totals. And then I have other people who like kind of like me where I'm betting more team totals and sides in baseball, and I'll bet like I don't know 1 or 2 a week. I'll bet a strikeout prop. Like it feels like it's one or the other.
Yeah, like it's rare that I bet a prop. I mean, it's like if I bet a prop, it's like I must really, really like it because it's rare.
NFL too? You not heavy in the NFL market for props?
I don't think I've ever done an NFL prop ever.
Wow.
Yeah. How about that? I mean Super Bowl I've done them, of course.
Yeah.
Super Bowl I'm hitting every prop I can.
Right.
It's so funny. I was so mad at myself because I think we have Rob. Guy I work with had Rob Gronkowski first touchdown, and I put it in for him, and I didn't take any for myself. I think it was like 18-1 or something like that.
And you're like, wait, that was a good play. Yeah. I mean, I do play props during the NFL year. I don't play college football props. I will do NFL props because I think there is some correlation with DFS people that I know that if I'm watching when if I got friends of mine that are like, 100% roster this guy RB1 on your DFS lineup, and I'll be like, okay, what's the number? And if it's something that looks attractive, I'm like, okay, we just trail that and just turn it into a prop and bet it that way. That's been one of the more interesting things, I think, from a football betting perspective, is just the daily fantasy inclusion with those models and how they translate over to prop betting. And it's why the limits are so low, because the books are petrified. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, you should be. They should be.
Because the math people like you, the smart guys, are able to do projections and they're able to be ahead of the game. And if like what I like about what you're saying and what I agree with is that you're using your eyes as well as your math. Like you're not just blindly betting because the model says so, and then you're using your eyes to tweak the model to fit what you think is actually going to happen. That I think is kind of the key when it comes to numbers. You can't just blindly follow them, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think you'll get killed. I mean, there's so many times where I've seen, I might see something with a guy's offensive line, or I might see a corner, or I might see a weak spot here and there. And it's just, I got to attack that just as much as I got to attack when I feel like the market is off. And then, especially now, you always got people manipulating the market. So you just don't know. So it's just like, if I don't have that football knowledge or that basketball knowledge, I'm going in blind.
What do you make of head fakes? How do you spend much time trying to figure out whether the line move is real or not? Or do you just go by your own play and say, look, I don't care what the market does?
I think you kind of got to, because it's like, for me, I want to know, I want to know what, the market is thinking, because I look at this like a multiplayer game. So
I'm with you that. Yeah. I love knowing what the market, I mean, you have to have, I want to know what I don't know. That's what I want.
Exactly.
Somebody knows something that I don't know. So I don't want to get stuck. Like I'll give you for instance. So I had talked to a bookmaker on my radio show about the Jake Paul fight. And I said, who are you going to need come fight night? And the book told me, we're going to need Woodley on fight night. And so I was like, oh my gosh, you're going to need Woodley? Like, that's crazy. Okay. I mean, I thought you could say you need Jake Paul, but you're going to need Woodley. Like, all right, because all the public money and pro money early had poured in. Well, that same bookmaker told me on Saturday before the fight, hey, by the way, we need Jake Paul, and we booked it as such to need Jake Paul. They didn't tell me on Friday that they were booking it to need Jake Paul and all the money because they had the highest odds on Woodley. I had to get out. Because I was trailing going, wait a minute, I want to be on your side as the bookmaker because I think you guys are going to set the market. And then everything kind of flipped because literally 20-1 bets came in on Woodley. Nobody was betting on Jake Paul. So I got out of it. And I think you have to pay attention to the market. You got to pay attention to where the books are. Like, generally speaking, I'm not saying you fade the public always, but how do you feel about being on the side of the book versus being on the side of the public for your bets?
In the NFL, there's a rule I live by, and it's always avoid the public underdog. That's one that, I mean, when it comes to fading the public, that's one where it's just like, if I see too many people in the public underdog, I want no parts of it. And even if I'm not fading the public, sometimes it's good enough to have something to keep you off a bad bet. And I think you don't always have to fade them, but if it can get you off a bet, that's a good thing.
I agree. And that's why I also think if there's too many people in our business on one side, I don't like it either. Like I like it when I put a play up and then the first thing I get is from someone saying, oh, I hate that bet. Good. Yeah. I don't want everyone to cheer because 9 times out of 10, if everybody thinks the bet's great, it's not hitting.
That's exactly what it is. And a lot of times I see that with my colleagues. If we're all on one side, I'm like, what are we missing? Like,
raise your hand. Wait. There's got to be something wrong here. Why are we all on the same side?
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'd rather go, and I love my coworkers, but I'd rather always have somebody against me.
Of course. 100%. I'm with you. I want that. I want that pushback. And like, it's just fun wherever I put up plays on Twitter or TikTok or whatever. It's like, if I get everybody cheering, I'm like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. I know almost instantaneously by the reaction of people who are saying, I want that person to say, you're missing the point of whatever and get into their, pushback. And then I'm like, okay, good. There's a little bit of a different spin there. Someone else is not seeing what I'm seeing and I'm comfortable where I am. And look, I do believe in fading the public. I do think in the NBA, in big games in the NBA, I think going against the public, but I also believe the books lie and they lie all the time. And we might think the data we've got is good, but we don't have the data that's good.
Yeah, we don't.
Only they have it, and they're not telling us. No one's giving us the secret sauce. No one's giving us the real inside stuff because, frankly, they're not really lying on purpose. It's just by the time they give you and me their numbers, they could have taken 4 bets on the other side and changed everything.
I mean, that's why you can't blindly follow anything. So it's just like, I always look at it like, I always tell you, I look at myself like a boxer. It's like, Floyd Mayweather is going to come in and he's going to use his shoulder roll. But if he faces a southpaw, he might use his high guard. Or, there's some fights where he's just throwing the pull counter at will. So it's just like, I feel like I got so many different weapons and I'm just trying to put all of them together. And I look at somebody like, I keep using this guy as an example, but Billy Walters, he has a group of handicappers. And he knows what each game is worth from each handicapper. And I actually try to, as much as I'm handicapping the game myself, I try to do that with everybody else in the media and in the market. So
you know that Billy's back, right?
Yeah, we spoke about this. We definitely spoke about this. But it's like, I look at it like
the Acme crew is coming back, and everybody here in Vegas is trying to figure out which game they're going to be on coming up for week 1 of college football.
So it's like you're putting out a game, and you might have a write-up. Doug Kazarian might have a write-up. Preston Johnson might have a write-up. I'm reading it all. And then I'm trying to, factor that into my handicapping because, of course, it's much like the media is the public too. So
no, it's true. And smart people are wrong. I mean, that's the thing about, Billy Walters. You're bringing him up. He always says 57%. So that means 43% of the time the guy's wrong. So just because, that one person's going one way, that doesn't mean that you can't be on the other side. If you truly believe your play, like that's what I talk to people all the time about my picks podcast. And if anybody ever gets mad and like, oh, I trailed you when you went 1 and 2 or whatever, I'm like, look you had every right to go 2-1 by betting the other side. You have to take responsibility for buying the bet. You're hitting buy. I'm not. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. You can do whatever you want with that information. I'm not forcing you to do anything. So like, that's how I always approach people when it comes to what I'm putting out there. I'm just telling you what I'm playing. You don't have to do anything with that. You can ignore it. You can use it. You can fade it. You can follow it. It's up to personal responsibility as a bettor. And that, I think, bothers people because they want to be told what to bet. Yeah. They don't want to think. They don't want to do the work you're doing.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I think people are just lazy. I think we've gotten to a point to where people don't want to know how to make the sauce. They don't want to know how to learn how to fish. They just want the fish given to them. And I think that's the frustrating thing about our industry currently is that there's just ways to teach people how to handicap or ways to, learn what this key number is worth or when to bet into spots. And people aren't as interested in that. So
no, it's true. And I mean, it's amazing the number of people, and it's great because they're new, they're coming in and they want to learn, but they'll say, wait, what's a key number? Or like, wait, like what? I'm confused. Like, why shouldn't I parlay? It's like, okay, so let's go through all these different situations that you're doing and why you're losing or why you're putting yourself in a position to lose more, to have it be more likely that you lose. We all lose. We all have losing days, losing weeks, whatever, it happens. But you're hurting yourself. You're putting yourself further behind because the -110, and I stress this to everybody, you have to realize that we are down when we start. We're at 110 and they're at 100 when we start. So that's what makes this so difficult and such a fun game to have. And people are always like, why do you get so excited when you win? Because it's an exciting time. The money's great, but whatever. I get more satisfaction over the fact that I got the play right and I got the pick right. And I was handicapping it correctly and seeing it correctly. And then it plays out. And for me, that's what gets me going. I get excited. I don't know. I don't do the money you do though. So I get why you would celebrate your wins.
For me, it's more so the intellectual challenge. And I agree with you. I mean, the money is cool, but it's just, I think at a certain point, the money becomes, it almost becomes stressful.
I agree.
When you're betting at a bigger stake. So it's the challenge of, I got this right. Like to me, when I was the only person in the stadium rooting for the Bucks to win Game 7, and I was right. I felt like I was in heaven.
Yeah, I saw the picture.
You know what I mean?
You had a smile ear to ear. You were looking like you were on cloud 9.
Yeah, so it's just like, to me, it's those moments like that, or it's just the moments where I'll take the Clippers to win the series when they lose Kawhi Leonard, and it's just like, I was right. The whole world thought this series was over. So I like those moments.
Absolutely. And you should celebrate those moments. Those are awesome moments to have. All right. So before we wrap here, let's talk a little bit about the NFL. Anything you're looking at futures wise, any teams you like, anything week 1 that you're liking right now in the NFL?
All right. I took the Broncos over 7.5 wins. I still would take it at 8.5. I'm really big on the Broncos this year.
Wait. Okay. I have to know why. What? So you like Teddy Bridgewater in this offense? Why?
It's not that It's not that I particularly like Teddy Bridgewater. I think he's a perfectly average quarterback. Like
Teddy covers, we love him.
I mean, if you looked at mediocre in the dictionary, Teddy Bridgewater should pop up. But I mean, he lost the most EPA in the NFL. They had injuries. They 26 in adjusted games lost due to injury. Only team who was worse in injuries, from what I remember, is the San Francisco 49ers. They lost everybody.
Yeah.
Lock was horrible. Interceptions, turnovers. Bridgewater, all they need him to do is just be an average quarterback. The defense is going to be good. Fangio is solid. I think they're going to get positive regression. I think they'll be fine. So I took that over 7.5 wins. I took that back in March. It's 8.5 now.
Wow.
I like the Saints under 9.5 wins. I think it's 9 now. I think, the defense is getting older. Cam Jordan's like 32. I mean, Jameis Winston, I like him, but I just don't think he's the guy for this offense.
It's my most contrarian play in college, in the NFL or college this year, is over 9.5 wins for the Saints.
Wow.
It's my
you got to tell me why.
It's my most contrarian because, well, frankly, I am really nervous about Hurricane Ida. Okay. And that has really thrown a monster wrench into this bet because they could be out.
Oh, yeah.
They could be out a month before they play a home game. So that feel like I'm annoyed by that. I'm frustrated by what's just gone on. But the reason why I think Jameis Winston's going to have an absolutely huge year, and I'm okay with Michael Thomas being out for the first 6 weeks. I am. I actually think it might be a good thing for the offense to try to find itself without Michael Thomas and then insert him back in. Alvin Kamara to run the football and play defense. Run the ball, play defense. The Packers, everybody's on the Packers. This is, again, where another, like, the public, everyone's like, oh, take Aaron Rodgers, take Green Bay, take the Packers. I don't like teams that don't play anybody in the preseason in week number 1. It concerns me tremendously coming out of the gate that you don't have the consistency, the same type of rhythm, and then you go into a real game situation. Now, unfortunately, the Superdome's not going to be a factor. So I thought the Saints would win game 1. Not going to happen because now if they have to play that in Dallas, that's going to be a whole.
See, I got to push back on that because the Rams went to the Super Bowl. The Rams never play anybody.
Yep.
The Rams went to the Super Bowl.
True.
They won that. I think they played. Who they played? Carolina week 1.
Sounds right.
Yeah, 2019. They were on the road.
Yep. Right.
I don't know why I remember that, but I just.
No, and I understand. I personally have. I like coaches. I like the receiving core more than most people do, and I think Jameis with the LASIK and under Sean Payton, I think they're out there to prove a point. And the point was that Jameis Winston is a talented quarterback. And they can just throw 16 picks. Don't throw 30, and they should be okay. And and I think there's winnable games. I mean, they won the division last year. People forget about this with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's like they won the division. And I know you're right about the defense getting a little bit older, but that defense is still a top 10 defense in the NFL.
I mean, they lost Trey Hendrickson. Who else it's just, to me, I just
you still have Jenkins. You still have leadership in that locker room.
I'm a Philly guy. Jenkins is washed.
Oh.
He's washed.
Oh.
He was washed last year. Lattimore hasn't been the same since his rookie year.
That's true. He's been disappointing. He needs to take a step up. But they still get after the quarterback. I know you don't like Cam, but they still get after the quarterback.
I mean, I like Cam, but it's just I just think he's getting older.
Mm-hmm. And that's true. But I just think when you look at this is 17 games, I need them to go 10-7 to cash my bet. And going through their schedule. But again, that whole bet with the Hurricane Ida situation is now completely and totally in trouble.
Oh
so
yeah,
I'm not.
I was gonna say, you know what? We can have a lunch bet on this.
I'm in trouble. I'm not gonna debate that. Now that with the Ida situation, I'm in trouble. I will admit that. But before Ida, I liked over 9.5 a lot.
What else did I have? I'm gonna be honest with you. I like Cleveland, man.
Everyone does, but how can you not? I mean,
it's just like you can't not like them.
I think Stefanski's a really good coach. I think he's got that defense. You mentioned, hopefully they stay away from injuries because if Cleveland's defense stays healthy, that's why I'm fading the Steelers this year. I'm on under 8.5 wins for the Steelers.
I'm with you there.
I like the Bengals over 6.5 wins. I like the Browns over their win total. And I think that you've got the Ravens who are going to be the Ravens. I mean, the Steelers are going to come in last place in the division. I think that that's a real possibility. And Steeler fans throw up when they hear me say that. But I don't think that offensive line is going to be that good. I think Ben's getting older. And I don't know why they drafted Najee Harris. He's a great player. I get the point. But they had so many more needs than a running back in the first round to go and get Najee Harris.
I mean, they threw the ball so much last year that they felt like they needed to. But it's like you said, the offensive line isn't there. Pouncey retired. It's just this could be a year where maybe Tomlin might not last. I mean, I know the Steelers they have like 4 coaches in the history of the franchise, but
if Ben gets hurt or Ben doesn't play, Dwayne Haskins could be the quarterback. I mean, he's looked the part in the preseason. At least he shows he's competent in that offense, and he ran a very similar offense in college at Ohio State. So at least maybe he's away from his boys and the craziness he got himself into coming out of college. Maybe he can resurrect his career. I mean, the team seems to like him. So, I don't know. It's one of those years where for Roethlisberger, we always talk about cliffs with quarterbacks, right? And it's like Brady has changed all of us. We all just assume that if you're mid-30s, you're going to be fine. I don't know if Big Ben's going to be one of those guys that he's in his upper 30s going into his 40s and he's still playing in the NFL.
And Ben has always taken a lot of hits. I mean, he holds the ball a long time. He doesn't have the TB12 workout plan. and the
Whatever
cream
that
and the
is.
krill, whatever he's doing out there, he doesn't have that.
Whatever Brady's taking these days, right? Whatever Brady's doing to keep going. But yeah, I'm with you. And the flexibility training or whatever the heck, Ben's a big stiff dude. So the elbow problems, shoulder problems, whatever he's going to run into. How do you feel about the Bengals this year?
That offensive line is just still concerning to me, and I'm not a big fan of Zach Taylor at all.
Oh no, I covered him in college as a quarterback in Nebraska. I'm with you. It's the one thing. It was the hardest thing for me to bet over 6.5 wins because of him. I like everything else except the coach, and I can't stand the coach.
Yeah, I think that's what's keeping me off of that one. I can't do it.
That receiving core is so good though, man. T. Higgins is going to be a monster. Jamar Chase is going to be so good. It's all about that knee for Burrow for me. You just got to have that knee be healthy. So that's where I am on the Bengals. All right, Raheem, do me a favor. If folks want to follow you on social media, they want to follow your picks plays, how can they find you? Where can they find you?
They can find me at DJRTO, DAIZZA. That's DJR to the Izzy on Twitter. You can find me at the Action Network, Raheem Palmer. If you search Raheem Palmer on Twitter, I'll probably pop up because I'm unique. There's not too many people like me. Raheem Palmer on Twitter, DJR to the Izzy, DJRTO, DAIZZA. Raheem Palmer at the Action Network. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thank you for the time. You're an awesome follow. I recommend everybody follow you, in particular for the NFL and the NBA. You are absolutely awesome. Thank you for the time. We really appreciate you coming on this week.
I appreciate it. Also, one thing I didn't mention, I like the Washington football team this year. I think they're gonna be a problem.
Ooh.
They don't have Haskins. They don't have the corpse of Alex Smith. That's a team that I like this year.
To do what? Win the division?
I'm a Cowboys fan, but I think they're the team I expect to win the division. I'm beyond.
They won it last year. I mean, the injury to Dak obviously kind of had a big factor in it, but I'm not against it. The vaccination thing scares me. I need to see.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing that scares me with a lot of teams. I mean, even looking, it's so funny because Cam basically got cut because of the vaccination thing today.
I don't think it was the only reason why, but I definitely think having a backup quarterback unvaccinated could cause a major problem in the locker room. I think the Patriots figured out, you know what? If Mac Jones won the job, which he did, we can't keep an unvaccinated backup quarterback. So let's go ahead and move off of him. Although I don't know about Brian Hoyer, though. So there's been some pushback that Hoyer might be unvaccinated, too. So maybe that narrative's not actually true. So the Patriots may have a backup quarterback unvaccinated, but we don't really know exactly what's going on. But people are asking now because he's now QB2 versus being QB3. Now the eyeball is a little bit different on Brian Hoyer. So we got to see. My friend, thank you for coming on this week. Really appreciate your time.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.